Hi everyone, my name is Edgar and I'm going to talk to you today about how to travel to Japan in a safe and cheap way. And the city we will travel to when we get to Japan will be Tokyo. So let's take a look. Let's first talk a bit about Japan and some of its major cities. Japan is an island nation in the Pacific Ocean with dense cities, Imperial Palace, mountainous national parks, and a thousand of shrines and temples. The Shinkansen bullet train connects the main island of Kyushu with Okinawa's tropical beaches, Honshu with Tokyo and the Hiroshima Atomic Bombing Memorial, and Hokkaido, famous for skiing. Tokyo, the capital, is famous for skyscrapers, commerce and pop culture, and beginning this last city to which we will visit and we will cross its streets. Knowing the city where we are going, we will review a little the culture of citizens of Japan. Japanese culture is governed in terms of interpersonal relationships by the giving, a name given to the set of duty, obligation, and honor, which generates quite a contrast with respect to the individualistic tradition of the West. Family situations are much more lax in matters related to morally or socially accepted behavior, but in return of the relationship with hierarchical superiors or strangers is extremely formal. Great respect is also held for the elderly and ancestors, who are often worshipped spiritually on home altars. Knowing this, now we will talk a little about how to travel and what should take into consideration if you plan to travel to Japanese land. To travel to Japan, the documentation we need is very simple. You only must have passport with sufficient validity for the total stay in the country and a round-trip ticket. You only need this to travel to Japanese country. Since Japan has a visa exception if you are native of the countries that enter the list, Mexico being one of these that enters the list of up to 6 months to stay. Now, we will talk a little about of the language. Without about, one of the most complicated things when traveling to Japan is the language. The official language, and although it is strange, the only one spoken by a large part of population is Japanese. You will definitely want to learn at least a little Japanese to ask for direction and help. And if you want to find a translator, many of these you need to reserve them for your stay in Japan. The official currency of Japan is the yen, and contrary to what you might think, credit cards are hardly used in the country. Credit cards are accepted in hotels and large stores in the most important cities, but Japan is one of the developed countries with the lowest penetration rate for this mode of payment. The Japanese use coins cards like Suica and Pasmo. If you plan to visit more remote cities, the best option is always to bring cash. If you want to change money to pay the minimum commission, it is the best to take euros of dollars and change to yen at banks or agents housed in Japan. The other option, somewhat more comfortable, is to withdraw money in yen from ATMs. You will find ATMs in some banks and 24-hour stores such as 7-Eleven. So, knowing tips, we will tell you some types in you traveling to Japan. So, so that you stay in Japan is not so expensive. We recommend to follow tips to save a little more. With the Japan Rail Pass, this small pass is very likely to be bought, since in Japan transport is very expensive, and with a small pass, you can save a lot of money. Always travel more than 4 people. This to be able to rent an Airbnb and save a little. This option is super good, since the Airbnb is much more than the hotels in Japan. buy a local telephone line SIM. This in order to not spend large amount of gigabytes and it's too expensive. There is a SIMs for foreigners in Japanese airports. Before traveling to Tokyo, it's advisable to take into account its extreme temperatures to decide where to travel at certain times of the year. In the rest of Japan, the climates vary greatly, from the subarctic part in the north to the monsoon climate in the south. Tokyo in winter. The Pacific regulates the temperature in a extremely way, and although it's quite cold between December and February, the temperature does not usually drop below 0 centigrades. The average temperature the month is 6 centigrades. Travel in spring. Almond and cherry blossom trees are good thing to good weather has arrived. The second half of March and the first half of April are good times to travel to Tokyo. Tokyo in summer. The summer months, especially June and July, are marked by heavy rains and the high temperatures in Tokyo. Fall in Japan. The colors of fall marks another of the favorite season to travel. The average temperature in Tokyo is fall 18 centigrades. The biggest problem of this time is the greatly probability of rain and hurricanes force winds. Best days to travel. For us, the best months to travel to Tokyo are March, April, May, October, and November. It's very important that you try to avoid the last week of April and the first of May, since these days is when the most Japanese take vacations, and that translates in full trains, full hotels, and higher price. Places to visit. Shinjuku, with Shibuya, the most cosmopolitan and lively neighborhood in Tokyo, with its neon lights, fashion, people, and 24 hours atmosphere. Its streets are the living image of the modernity and we have in the mind when thinking about Tokyo. If you go to Japan, you should definitely visit this neighborhood, not only if you like anime and manga and others. It is tourist attraction for all public and more when the sun goes down. It's the when the true spirit of this neighborhood comes out. Another tourist attraction is the mountain of Monte Fuji. If you travel to Japan, it's your duty to take a picture next to the Mount Fuji and Tokyo. And Tokyo has the most best views of Fujisan, and there is a strip from Tokyo to the feet of Fujisan. Another great attraction in Tokyo that you are very likely to go is Akihabara. Akihabara is the best neighborhood in Tokyo to shop for the last technology. It's also the birthplace of manga and other geek trends. And with that will be all. Remember that we only give you a few facts and tips to consider it so that you have the starting point so that you can plan your trip to Japan. Always remember that when it comes to traveling, your safety and well-being comes first, and it is about safety. Japan is one of the safest countries in the world, so you can enjoy your trip with all the happiness in the world. My name is Edgar, and I hope this little guide has helped you. Have a good trip and enjoy.